It was an interesting weekend of championship fixtures where, in my predictions, I got the vast majority of them wrong, to be fair. But there was a few which I did get right, and we're going to take a look at them in this video. We're also going to look ahead to this evening and Wednesday evening's fixtures as we look at teams like Derby County facing up against Norwich City in what is a huge relegation clash this early in the season. You've got Preston facing up against Birmingham as well as Middlesbrough taking on Sheffield Wednesday. There's so many fixtures heading across the course of the next few days, and you need to keep yourself across them. We're going to be reacting to the previous results as well as looking ahead and making predictions for round 11. So if you have not done so already, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on that notification bell. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, but let's get into it. Now, the first game of the midweek set of fixtures is Blackburn versus Sheffield United. They get underway this evening at 7:45, and it's Sheffield United who are the away side. And ultimately, I think this is going to be a very, very interesting game. When we look at the two sides in the division, both sides are languishing down in that relegation zone with just a point separating the two sides. Now, both Blackburn and Sheffield United have not had the start to life this season that they wanted to. Maybe Blackburn fans expected this with such a mass exodus this summer, change of manager and so many changes behind the scenes. But Sheffield United certainly didn't anticipate being in the relegation zone after 10 games. Now, heading into this one, both teams are heading in very, very different form. Blackburn Rovers got beat 2-0 by Coventry City at the weekend, whereas Sheffield United picked up their second win of the season with a 1-0 victory over Watford. However, I don't think much is going to change for either side, and I do think that it's going to be an even draw. I think it's going to end as a 1-1 draw between Blackburn and Sheffield United. I just can't see much positives coming out of this game for either side, if I'm honest. It is going to be a very, very difficult one. Now, next up, it's another relegation scrap as Derby County take on Norwich City at Pride Park Stadium. And this is a huge game, in my opinion, for both managers, both Liam Manning and that of John Eustace, because ultimately both have had very, very poor starts to the championship season. And I think if you look at Derby County, the money they've spent, you look at Norwich City, the squad they've got, this is not where either team anticipated where they would be. And realistically, if you look at the underlying data, especially for Derby County, it has been absolutely horrific. Now, don't get me wrong, many things could change across the course of the next few days. And obviously, with a victory tonight, Derby County could see themselves rise as high as, I think it's 17th place. I could be wrong there. Norwich City in a pretty similar boat as well. But both teams could also see their manager going over the course of the next few weeks should they not pick up a result. Now, looking at the results and the scores around the grounds with Norwich City, I've seen that they're one of those teams that are just struggling. And it's the same with Derby County. Now, I believe that Derby County are going to come away victorious. I just think it's going to be a 1-0 win. I think it's going to be a very scrappy game. I think it's going to be a poor performance from both sides. But there will be a matchday vlog over on my main channel later on today about that game. So if you haven't done so already, head on over there, go and check that out. But for me, I'm going Derby County 1, Norwich City 0. Next up then, we have Hull City versus Leicester City. This is quite a big game, really, because both teams are sort of within that playoff picture at the minute. Leicester City sitting 4th with 17 points. You've got then Hull City, who are sitting in 10th on 15. A victory could put Hull City as high as 3rd. A victory for Leicester could also put them in 3rd. But it is going to be interesting to see how this does develop for me, because this is going to be a very, very big game. Now, I believe that Leicester City are going to come out on top. I just think they're the better team. And obviously, Leicester City have lost just once this season. And I can just see Leicester City coming away with a 2-0 victory here. So that is the score I'm going for. Hull City 0, Leicester City 2. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting evening for the sides. But I just think Leicester City are going to be able to edge it. Now, the next game is Ipswich Town versus Charlton Athletic. It's going to be a huge game because Ipswich Town have turned it around recently with 3 wins in their last 5 games. 1 draw, 1 defeat in there as well. You look then at Charlton, they've got the exact same 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat. But I just think Ipswich are going to have a little bit too much for them, if I am completely honest. And I think Ipswich are really starting to come into their own. Don't get me wrong, yes, they lost 2-1 to Middlesbrough at the weekend, but Middlesbrough are currently sitting second in the division. And to be quite honest with you, it was a very, very even game. Had Ipswich played their full 10 games, would they be sitting any higher in the division? Who knows? Obviously, it was that game against Blackburn Rovers, which was postponed mid-game. But I am thinking that Ipswich Town are going to come away 3-0 winners at the end of this one. It's going to be a very interesting one. It is. It really, really is. And I just think Ipswich are just going to have a little bit too much for Charlton. Saw Charlton at Derby County a few weeks ago, and I didn't think they were anything special. The fact they are sitting 9th very much reminds me of Derby County's start to the season last year, where we started really well and then sort of slowly dropped off as we hit October, November, December, and then by the end of January, we were sat at the bottom of the league table. We then head into the next game, which is Millwall versus Stoke. I genuinely think this is going to be a very, very boring game. Two teams who, don't get me wrong, are doing very, very well. Stoke in 3rd, Millwall in 6th. I just think they're going to cancel each other out. I think it is going to be a 0-0 draw. I just can't see anything good really coming from this game. Next up then is Portsmouth versus Coventry. Now, Coventry City are by far and away the best team in the league. They're on the hunt for 5 championship victories on the spin. Currently sitting on 4. 6 wins, 4 draws for them this season. 29 goals scored, only 7 conceded. Now, they do only have 22 points on the board, which is only 1 point ahead of Middlesbrough. And I think it's 4 points ahead of that of Stoke City. Portsmouth, on the other hand, sitting 14th. 10 games played, 3 wins, 4 draws and 3 defeats. 9 scored, 10 conceded and 13 points. Their most recent game was a 1-1 draw up against Leicester City, who find themselves in 4th place. But for me, I think it's very obvious the way this one's going to go. I do think Coventry City are going to win this game, and I'm going for a 3-1 Coventry City victory away from home at Fratton Park. I just can't see Pompey being able to topple Frank Lampard's Coventry. Now, next up, we've got Preston versus Birmingham, and this is going to be a huge game for Preston North End. Challenging up there in the playoffs, Birmingham City languishing in 17th place. But there's not that many points between them. Only 5 points separate Birmingham City from being ahead of Preston North End. But ultimately, I think Preston North End have looked very, very good this season. And I think they're going to win this game. I think it's going to be a 1-0 victory. Wouldn't surprise me if it was Lewis Dobbin to pop up with the goal. But obviously, you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. And obviously, let me know your predictions as well down there. And if you have not done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. Next up then, it's Bristol City up against Southampton. Now, Bristol City have had a decent start to life, and Southampton haven't. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one does shake out. There is only 4 points separating the two sides. But for me, Southampton have been very, very poor given the squad that they have and the manager that they brought in. I sort of anticipated they'd be sort of up there in and around the Coventrys and Middlesbroughs of the Championship. But ultimately, it hasn't quite gone to plan. And if I'm completely honest, I don't quite think that they should have picked up a point against Derby County. I don't necessarily think they deserved it. But it's one of those things where I do think they're going to pick up a point in this game. And I do think at some point Southampton are going to have a turning point. They're 4 unbeaten right now, but only one of those games is a victory. And that was up against Sheffield United. And do I think tonight they're going to get another one? I don't. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I think Bristol City are going to do very, very well. Obviously, in their most recent game, they picked up a 1-0 win against Norwich. But it is going to be interesting to see how this one does develop. Now, next up, you have Swansea, who are going to be hosting QPR. And it's going to be an interesting one, this one. QPR find themselves in 11th. Swansea down there in 13th. There's 2 points separating the two sides. And ultimately, for both sides, it's been an okay start to the season. QPR were 4 unbeaten before Saturday, where they I think they lost on Saturday, wasn't it? 2-1 to Millwall. Swansea City, on the other hand, they drew against Southampton. And Southampton are a very, very interesting team to discuss at the moment. And do I think that Southampton are good? No. So Swansea not being able to pick up 3 points is a very, very interesting one. Now, I believe this one is going to end with QPR taking the points home with a 2-0 victory over Swansea City. But you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. Now, next up, we have Watford versus West Brom. Don't know why, but all of a sudden, I'm feeling West Brom 2-0. I've just got a feeling that West Brom are going to start to pick up some form. I know they're currently sitting 5th in the division, but they've been very, very hit and miss. It's 2 defeats, 2 wins and 1 draw in their last 5 games, which, don't get me wrong, isn't horrific. And obviously at the weekend, they beat Preston 2-1. But I just think West Brom are going to have a little bit too much for Watford, who sit down there in 15th place on 12 points. But you can obviously let me know your thoughts on that down below. Now, the next game is Wrexham versus Oxford. Oxford find themselves on 9 points after victory against Derby County. Wrexham find themselves on 10 points. They lost their most recent game up against Stoke City. I think this one is going to be a 1-1 draw. I don't really see much in Wrexham or Oxford, to be honest. Obviously, Oxford were all over Derby County this weekend, but Derby County were absolutely horrific. Wrexham, on the other hand, I don't know. There's something about them I just don't like. They score goals, but they also concede a ton of goals. For me, I'm going 1-1. And to round off the weekend, you've got Sheffield Wednesday versus Middlesbrough. Now, to be honest with you, I think this really could go either way. But I've got a sneaky suspicion that Middlesbrough are going to absolutely batter Sheffield Wednesday, to be completely honest with you. And I genuinely believe it's going to be a 4-0 thrashing from Middlesbrough. Now, obviously, there's many different ways you can look at this. If you don't appreciate these predictions, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.